After playing Destiny 2 for literally hundreds and hundreds of hours doing the same tasks over and over and over again, we were ready for something new. Enter the Curse of Osiris, the first piece of DLC for the game. This was a chance to follow in the footsteps of the legendary warlock Osiris, one of the most powerful guardians of all time, as he uncovered yet another threat that faced mankind. So what was this piece of DLC like? Was it as good as we all hoped it would be? Well, no, unfortunately not. Not only was it a disappointment, it didn't make the most of the golden opportunity that it had. Stepping onto the plains of Mercury for the first time, a desert-like planet with hints of ancient Egypt, and even the music had a ring of the Middle East to it, was great. It was a setting that added something different to the world, but the problem was, there wasn't a whole lot of it. In fact, one public event and that was about it. Almost every mission didn't actually take place on Mercury itself. Instead, they took place in a kind of simulation-like world created by the Vex called the Infinite Forest. Every time you entered the forest, the first thing you'd have to do is walk the long length of this particular corridor. The first time doing this, no problem. You then entered a strange floating world, which was basically an opportunity to kill a few enemies and unlock a door that would lead to another very similar chunk of land floating in the air. But here's the problem. Destiny is a game all about replayability. It's about doing these same things over and over again on a weekly basis. But Curse of Osiris didn't provide an experience that was fun to replay. Take the long corridor for example, which you'd have to redo every time you wanted to start a mission. I'm sure it was covering a loading time, but still, it got boring. It would be like having to climb that ladder in Metal Gear Solid 3 not once, but before every single objective. It was however nice to start leveling up at speed again. The level cap was increased to 25, but more importantly, the power level to 335. All of those hours spent grinding up those last few levels to 305 now seemed trivial when you'd suddenly burst up to say level 316 in no time at all. Guns that you may have been using for dozens of hours were now weak in comparison, so it provided a nice opportunity for a bit of a shake-up and a chance for you to try out some new, more powerful weapons. So farewell Scava Lava Locker, you'll always be remembered.
Reach for the sky, big guy.
This was a short piece of DLC, taking only a few hours to complete, which is a shame. There was plenty of opportunity here to try something more creative. For example, quoting the Destiny lore, Osiris was driven to madness and exiled for his obsession with the nature of darkness. But none of this came across in the game. Both he and his ghost Sagira were dull, and you learned nothing much about them, and they had no memorable moments, save for one cutscene at the start. Both of the new characters fell flat, and some elements of the story dealt with time travel, as you got a glimpse of Mercury in the past, present and future, with the past Mercury looking a lot like something out of The Lion King. But again, this time travel mechanic never led to anything interesting. They could have used it to have a harrowing glimpse of some future threat, or how about even letting you go back to the past and replay through something memorable from the first game. There were so many cool opportunities that they could have played around with, but instead, nothing. The story had some promise, but never really got going. Plus, again, it was too easy. You could walk into hordes of enemies without ever feeling threatened. This was a complaint that could be made about the main game, but for any experienced FPS player, there was no challenge here, with some bosses being blown away with just one shot. And the last boss wasn't about skill, practice or patience, but instead basically pick up an item, walk 10 meters, drop the item, repeat 3 times, done. But it wasn't just the story that you got of this DLC, you also got a couple of extra strikes, which were fun. Plus extra maps for the Crucible, although Jesus was that Prometheus lens overpowered.
Zone A lost. Only 5 minutes left.
Even Bungie had to admit that yes, this weapon was glitched on the release of the game. There were also a bunch of new weapons, new things to collect, new raid elements, as well as all of the different changes that were available to all players of Destiny 2 as it entered its second season. So was this piece of DLC worth getting for fans of Destiny 2? Absolutely, but for all the wrong reasons. This was a case of Activision going too far and crossing the boundary of what a DLC should be. DLC should be extra experiences for ones that want to pay for it, and should not affect those who decided against buying it. By increasing the recommended power level to do things like the Prestige Nightfall strikes and the Prestige raids for all players and not just those with the DLC, meant that those without the DLC could no longer do certain things that they used to be able to do. It's a shame that such a great game got bogged down in such stupid nonsense as this. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the game. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and until next time, thanks for watching.